Hi, I'm David. Today's sign is brought to you by this person, this person, this person, and this person. Seriously, people, if it takes exactly zero effort to not be a dick, why are there so many? You know what? Screw it. Let's do this thing. So today I want to talk to you about empathy, and in particular, empathy versus non-empathy, and just a different type of person and personality, and what happens when those two personalities tend to clash. Now, I feel this one pretty strongly because I have a lot of empathy, sometimes a little too much. So I tend to feel things strongly, as a lot of us do, and I don't think that's necessarily an aspect of being an INFJ. You have to remember something about MBTI in general, is that just because, I really don't think it should be called a personality type. I don't like that phrase. It's a type. It is something that tells you the way you process things, the way you absorb information and process things kind of on a cognitive level. Just because you are an INFJ, it doesn't mean that you are the soft sensitive type, but it does mean your brain thinks in such a way that that's something that is going to be a common occurrence with you. So never think that you've got to fit yourself into a particular box. That's a toxic thing to think. I'm going to go on more about that at another time. I've got some cool stuff lined up to bring to you guys in terms of just typing and some of the elements of that, sort of what I just talked about. So anyway, about empathy. I know certainly in my life, and I'm guessing probably yours as well, that if you are an empathic person and you run into somebody that does not have or has a very difficult time with empathy, that a lot of times there are some miscommunications. And I can give you a good example of this, whereas I am a very empathic person in that I see the way other people are feeling. I gather a lot of information from that. I tend to feel those feelings very strongly. And it's just the way I am. And that can, like I've described in other videos, it can kind of ruin me for days in some cases. My oldest son is 17 years old, and he does not have a lot of empathy. And not to say that he's a big jerk or anything like that, but it's just something that he has a more difficult time processing, is that emotions of others and trying to understand it. For him, it's more of a learned behavior. It's more of a learned skill than it is something that is inherent like it is with me. We may be somewhere that's serious, for instance, a funeral, and for me, I see other people upset, and that makes me upset. For myself, I have a hard time processing my own feelings and emotions about a particular event. And so I tend to get over tragedy fairly quickly, because for me, I get to acceptance pretty fast, I guess is the way I should phrase that. I get to the acceptance of the event in a very speedy manner. Because I'm not the type to dwell on the past. INFJs typically aren't anyway. So other people's feelings, though, those really do get to me. For him, seeing an event like a funeral is something that's a bit more foreign, because he's not able to feel what those other people are feeling, and that upset kind of thing doesn't really resonate with him. Which brings me to my own mind. Now, I'm not sure which type of a person you are. You could be watching this and you could be that person that is not very empathetic. You could be watching this and be the person that is, and just, you're crying at Hallmark commercials where the dog comes home to the soldier and the whole thing. I mean, I get upset at those two. So that's all fine. What I wanted to do is share with you something that I wrote, and it's a small story, and it was from a writing prompt. This one, I'm going to grab it here. was done in, I don't remember my password for this thing. This one was done on May 9th of this year, and it was something in a small writing group that I'm in. We just started throwing out some ideas for things to write to kind of get us out of a funk. And so this is one that I did, and in this I had that determination to cast the difference between somebody who has a lot of empathy and somebody who has very little empathy, and just have fun with the interplay that's going on there. So this is what you get. Maybe empathy is not the right word in particular for this story, but sensitivity, right? Somebody who's very sensitive to things and emotions and very in tune with that, perhaps a little too much, and then somebody who just does not speak that language at all. And this was sort of my take on how that's going to, how that would play together. What I'll do, I have a screen, and so if you see me looking up, I'm looking at just to see like where the shot is, to make sure that I have enough room to throw up some graphics on here. So what I'm going to do is read this, and then I'll throw up some of the words like kind of as I go, and then just a little bit about, afterwards about it. So this is, again, and I happen to be doing this quite often, is not something that I've shared with a lot of people. It's a bit raw as far as the writing goes, because it was just sort of like a quick prompt. 466 words, so it's really small. I didn't, I did submit it to see if I could get it published in a small fiction magazine. They turned it down because the guy didn't get my humor. Sorry. I know. You can't be everybody's cup of tea, people. That's just the thing. You're not the troll whisperer. Well, he wasn't a troll. He was a nice guy. All right. So anyway, here we go. Listen to the sultry sounds of my voice. I just need to bring my mic up a little bit. Okay, here we go. The screen door creaked, and Sam stepped out from the house, making his way to a deck chair beside his friend Mark. Sunrise was just moments ago, the warm glow hitting their faces amidst the whistling soundtrack of black-capped chickadees in the surrounding woods. Mark could tell life had Sam weighed down with sadness. He just had a hard time understanding why. For a long moment, the two stared out over the lush greens surrounding them on this crisp May morning, silent before nature's sweet sounds. Sam spoke up, his voice trembling. "Do you know what I'll miss most?" he asked. "Mornings like this? Together? My hand doesn't feel right, empty and untouched." Mark just listened, allowing his friend the space to speak his thoughts. Sam continued, "And those warm, smooth curves? I had each and every one memorized through touch. We were a part of each other's lives for 20 years. Every day. All of those mornings just like this, right here on this very porch." He let out a huge sigh, staring at his empty, calloused hands. "With me," he said, choking up. "Beside me for so much of my life, even as I built this house out of a dream, young, filled with hope and joy." Mark nodded as if he understood. He was trying to support his friend, but he was having an impossible time comprehending his friend's loss and way of grieving. Having never experienced this connection, all Mark felt was honest confusion. "And that feeling against my lips," Sam whispered. "There was—" He trailed off, attempting to compose himself as his shaking hand rubbed his eyes. "There was no greater thing than that soft, sweet first touch to my lips every morning." A lone, gentle tear rolled over Sam's cheek as he looked to his friend, his voice pleading. "I don't think I can go on without—" He stopped, the lump in his throat preventing another word from freeing itself into the cool, sharp morning air. Mark shook his head and stared at his friend. "Sam," he said, his voice soaked with impatience, "why don't you just find yourself a new favorite coffee mug?" Sam broke down in tears, holding his face in his hands, his uncontrollable sobs drowning out the peaceful sounds of early morning. Mark rolled his eyes and looked away in disgust, standing up with a grunt, then heading into the house. "I'm gonna go get a beer," he called out. "Come on in when you quit being such a pansy." And with that, he left his friend in the early morning bronze light of the sun-drenched porch, surrounded by the cheerful whistles of black-capped chickadees, a broken man, as shattered and incomplete as his favorite coffee mug. So putting aside the ridiculousness of the story, my point to this was an exercise about loss, and writing something about that had to do with that feeling of emptiness inside. And for me, this is kind of my sense of humor. I like a little bit of an unexpected twist to things. I like it when something is funny in a clever way, and this was my attempt at being clever, using something that I can definitely, that definitely resonates with me, which is a favorite coffee mug, because I have like 10 favorite coffee mugs, and they all have coffee in them. But it's just a way to kind of play with that feeling of loss. Now, also, I wrote this in early May, and my brother had passed away in February, and I really didn't feel like writing a heavy story about loss. So I'm like, you know what, this one will be kind of fun. Let's just play with the topic and enjoy it a little bit and just kind of write the story out this way. I do think that it illustrates a lot of times the miscommunication that we have with people when you happen to have a lot of empathy and the person that you're talking to or dealing with really doesn't. Now, obviously, Mark in this story is kind of a jackass, but at the same time, this isn't so much of a stretch. A lot of times when you have a lot of empathy and your feelings for other people are really in the fore, you'll find that people don't understand, and they're like, why are you being such a, whatever, why are you being such a baby about this? And why are you being such a, whatever, why are you being so oversensitive? Like, are you really, like, what's wrong with you? This is not a big deal. But they don't understand. They don't speak the same language that you do on a cognitive level, and how you process things, absorb the information and churn it in your own head in order to, basically place it against your value system in the world. And so for a lot of us, that leads to that feeling of being an alien and being misunderstood, because we speak in a very emotional language, and not everybody does. In particular, men, and a lot of men do not speak in that language. To me, and this is just my personal feeling on it, is that I believe that you have to be a very strong man in order to show sensitivity. I believe that men who are just, suck it up and grow a pair and all that stupid nonsense, they're the weak ones. And I believe somebody that is actually able to have a close relationship with another person and be able to be vulnerable is somebody that has some bravery to them. So I always make a note when I encounter somebody else that is a very sensitive thinker to really hone in on that and let them know, like, listen, you're, just being who you are is a pretty brave thing, because we are in a culture and a society that is, all about toughness. But, toughness comes in being able to put yourself out there and, well, not be the troll whisperer, I suppose. So there's that. Anyway, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you'd like, it is posted on my blog, and you can just go and have a look at it there if you just want to reread it or share it with somebody. Just go to davidbatterina.com. Link is there somewhere. I'm not really sure where my hands are in relation to everything. Also, this is my 49th video, which is pretty epic. And so for 50, I thought I'd like to do something cool, and I'd like to talk to you. So please, pretty please, I'm going to be recording that one probably in the next 4 to 5 days. Usually early in the week is when I try to do the first one. And so I'd like to answer some questions. I thought it'd be fun to do a video, just random questions. So if you have something that you'd like me to read out on the video and share with you as an answer, and listen to some of the other things that people are asking and answering, please, pretty please, send it along. Don't put it in the YouTube comments, because that's very difficult for me to keep track of. I mean, I'm always happy for you to like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. But if you could just do me a favor, go to my site and use the contact form on the site. It's in the social media section. Just go there. It's not a mailing list thing. That's separate. It's the form to get in touch with me, and do that. I don't keep that email address. It's private. It's yours. I don't care. If you want to get updated on the stuff that I'm doing, you can go ahead and do that separately on the site anyway. So thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the story, and I will see you on video number 50. Thanks so much.